I'm sorry for the format of these videos. I mean, I don't even wear a shirt. It's because I don't want them to be commercial. However, there's some things I need to cover, and I had stopped uploading. I was never going to upload again. I was done. Then I get this repeated request from the federal government over the last dozen years or so, and also from the American government to participate in the next fighter development program, and they don't want me to have any funding to do this. Well, I can only figure out one way to do that. I can't R&D you a free design. It doesn't work like that. I don't even have a drafting setup, and they know this. They also know that I have equipment. Everything I see and hear is live. It is the longest running pirate broadcast in history, running over 35 years. It was installed when I was turned 13 and turned on immediately. And all it does is broadcast everything I see and hear. That's it. But because of that, I can't design anything. I can't even have a bank account and have it be secure. I can't do anything, and that would be classified without first dealing with the equipment. Now, a simple RF modulator would do that, but they're a couple $100 and I'm on welfare. I don't have the money to run a fighter development program. Even to run this program on an RC level, which I looked into, I need a 3D printing setup. I need at least 15 grand worth of stuff before I build the first airplane. That therein lies the rub. It would take a lot of money, not to mention the fact that CAD is thousands of dollars. The program itself, it's one of the reasons why it's so much money. 5 of that is just for the CAD subscription, all that stuff. It gets really expensive really fast, and that doesn't even get me a built aircraft to start testing, let alone the RC gear. It ends up being right around 20 grand by the time I actually would start a miniature test program where I could really start developing these aircraft. Because I can't develop one for slow speed. They're talking a fighter plane. It has to be able to handle at high speed. Well, for something like that, I can't just make that up out of my head. That has to be tested thoroughly, and they know that. What they're asking for is based on the fact that in the 80s, I was able to design several fighter planes that we still use based on a few things. One, I had my father, who was a brilliant engineer. I had me, another brilliant inventor engineer. And I had access to all of the research the U.S. Air Force had done on any topic I cared to ask for, because I was designing warships and aircraft for us, Canada and the U.S. And that's a fact. And because of my contributions, it did change a lot of things, okay? It did up the game quite a bit. Now, this is the problem. The kind of things they've asked me to do will push things forward, technologically speaking. I've just uploaded a video I did not want to have to upload. Unfortunately, I had a conversation with our Prime Minister a few months ago where he promised $1 billion in cash. I'm owed huge amounts of money for the government's work with me in the past. And it's complicated, but as Crown Prince, my money was merged with the country's in the 80s. They don't want me to be king, really, or follow Crown law ever. They would love me to fake being king with no Crown law, but they want me to sign a contract saying I'm not allowed to touch the money. Well, the money is mine. I've earned it. So I've asked for what's called the separation of crown and state, which means we both mutually agree that there is no monarchy and was never going to be. The Queen tried to force it. We don't want it. We abolish it on paper. That would mean my money gets turned over to me, only at this point it's a huge sum of money. And it would actually seriously harm the economy of the country to turn over that much money to me. I don't want them to do that. I've agreed to accept $1 billion, which by their definition, by the amount they stated they owe me, is, believe it or not, 1/20th of 1%. I've earned approximately $2.3 trillion over the course of my lifetime between writing music, inventing. I created everything from Saran wrap to Reese's Pieces and more. So much you wouldn't even believe it. I don't go into it. I'm a real inventor, though. I do say that in the description of this channel. It's not a joke. And so in this video, I'm going to lay out the next part of this fighter design program because on one hand, it's like I feel like I have to beseech my government to give me the money I'm rightfully owed so that I can start the program that will develop the fighter they've demanded. Pathetic. On the same time, the American presidents, 2 of them in a row, including Trump, have asked for this at the same time, a new design for their program, which I had agreed to do in the 80s. But they had agreed to pay me, and they never have, which means I don't have the company I promised to start then, and they tried to throw the promise up in my face, basically, and say, hey, where's the design? Well, my response to that is, I'm not a traitor. And so the best I can do without giving the enemy all of our secrets is to give your engineers a walkthrough of the physics I intended to include in my design. So I've showed you the aircraft design. In brief, this is a jet, but it's not a jet like any other. It's a jet with a very flat wing. In fact, I could cut this portion right out of this wing, and these guys, these upward facing tips, they don't actually do what you think unless you do this and angle them way out like that. If they're straight up, they don't really produce a lot of lift, but on an angle like this, they do produce lift, but they produce a fair bit of drag. And the longer they run, the more drag they produce. This is actually a big honking son of a bitch, and it's not actually the best way to do it. I am going to show you the best way to do it while I explain to you how the engine's going to work. Because a jet fighter that I've said is going to be electric, not have batteries, I've described in previous videos how I want to use an electric generator powered off a gas motor, a small gas generator motor, powers an electric setup. We can then amplify the current, as I've discussed in other videos, which then leads us to our EDF. Now, the EDF itself is going to be different than any EDF you've seen. Now, it may not look like that is going to be a very effective downward turned tip, but I beseech you, it will be. Just that tiniest little tip turned down, just like that. That little tiny triangle sitting right at the front of the wing, angled down, is better. Okay, now I'm going to snip this off because that isn't the shape I want. And I'm just going to neaten up my tip and prepare it for what I'm actually going to do with that tip. And the simple reason is, as I've just stated, this is not the best setup. What I have found is actually the best setup. Now I just got to trim them up, make them nice and equal. Now, what is the best setup is to have a slightly downturned triangular tip that's right at the base, just right here. That's it. Going down about that far in proportion to this aircraft. And that's it. Just a little tiny triangle. And it would look kind of like that. Instead of running the whole length of the wingtip like that, it'll be much shorter and sit about like that. So if I were to just take this and make this into the shape that we want, okay, little tiny triangle, and we place this little tiny triangle just like this. Well, in this case, it'll actually be just like this right there. Okay, just a little tiny wingtip, teensy tiny, as opposed to one that runs the whole length of it. It's a lot less surface area. Now, what I've realized is that you do not need a lot of surface area in a wingtip. The tip is a very important place, and a ton of research has been done with different tips. As I pointed out, I had access to all the research that had been done, including by NASA and others, when I was young. And I've been expanding on that ever since, doing my own testing, my own research. And I have discovered in that a very small tip at the front, like I said, is superior, as I've shown in other videos. So I'm removing those tips. But in addition, the control surface method is new. Watch the last video and it'll explain to you how my control surfaces are going to work in this aircraft. You can't just put a weight to move the CG like I do in the RC airplane. Instead, you have a totally new control method that I have derived for this jet. The problem is, I can't show you an exact design, or it would give that design to the enemy. I can't show you the exact proportions to make it work. Even if I knew them, I can't even think about them without sharing it with the world, which would by Canadian law make it open source anyway. So if I'm going to do that, I may as well just share the physics with you and at least give your engineers a walkthrough. So that's what I've decided to do. It's the best I can do to give you guys what you want while you greedy bastards keep all the money, because the Americans still owe me 32 to 35 million from, well, it was the value of an F-15E back then. I can't remember exactly what it was, 32 and a half, I think. And they were supposed to donate that. Hardly. I'd already given them the fighter designs. They were complete and being built. And that was supposed to be my payment when that was the case. Well, that's what the contract said. Only the payment was never issued. It was supposed to be issued to Canada for our part in their fighter program. Only they didn't issue the payment. Well, I was supposed to get that directly to head our fighter program and to fund it with. Without that direct money, I never had the money to start it. In addition, the government has held all my money, saying, hey, you're going to be king one day. We'll gather it up for you. Don't worry, bud. We got you. And then when they said, I'm not going to be king, said, screw off. We got no money for you. You get nothing. And then had the nerve to say 20 years, 30 years later, hey, where's the new fighter? See, that's the problem. Politicians nowadays don't know all the details. All they know is, I promised I'd do a fighter, and where is it? So this is what's come about, where they asked me and I had to explain all this to them, and it's brutal. I hate having to tell them this. I treat them like they're evil pedophiles because I got robbed by the government, and they're the robbers, and it's hard for me to treat them as anything else. And I'm sorry that I do, but it's gotten that way. So over the course of these two videos, I'm going to explain the fundamentals of how this works, and I'm using this one as the original because this is the trainer I was going to design. I was going to design two jets for the Canadian Air Force, guys. A training jet and a fighter plane. They are very, very different designs. This will not give you our fighter plane design. I'm hoping that when these people in charge see that I'm contributing on this level, that they'll see fit to pay me the $1 billion that the Canadian Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, has promised me in the resolution of Crown and State, meaning the separation of Crown and State. I'm supposed to get my money. I'm taking 1/20th of 1%. Instead of $2.3 trillion, I'm taking $1 billion. I should be, theoretically, the wealthiest man alive, because the Crown's percentage of the businesses I started is 20%. I took between 5 and 20% of everything I've ever done, and I've done huge things. Only I never got the money. It's all gone into the Crown coffers, which were controlled by the government. And it was supposed to be when I was 18, they were supposed to put me on the throne. All that was supposed to be my money. Till then, the Prime Minister gets paid a management fee. You ever wondered why your Prime Minister leaves a billionaire? That's why. He's managing trillions of dollars of the Crown's wealth by contract with me. Only they haven't fulfilled the contract, because as of 18, that was supposed to end, and they were supposed to terminate that management of my wealth and turn it over to me. That's like a parent managing your billions that you've earned as a kid until you're 18. Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah. Until you're 18. Yeah. And then at 18, they throw you out of the fucking house and you get nothing. That's what they did. And now they got the nerve to ask me for a fighter plane. Well, I didn't want to share any of this open source, guys. You guys are pushing me here. And I got no choice now, apparently, or I'm not going to get my money. So the closest I can do without committing treason is to tell you that I'm not willing, even for my $1 billion, to commit the treason you seem to have asked me to do by designing this publicly, which I would be doing with my equipment in anyway, because everything I see in here is transmitted out. So what am I supposed to do here? Well, the closest I can do is give you a walkthrough on this RC version of the fighter trainer that I was going to use to test as cheaply as I could. And even then, I can't afford the RC gear, guys. I cannot afford to do a real test program on this. Do you understand? I'm literally picking through the garbage to eat, man. So I cannot afford to run you a fighter program, guys. But I can tell you that what my plan was to run an EDF. Now, once we amplify the current, as I was getting to, I just wanted to deal with the tips because it is a major part of this, and you won't get the high-speed performance that you want without those proper tips. Those tips were actually designed for a slow-flying airplane. You want a high-speed airplane, you don't want those kind of tips. So I decided to show you you're better off just cutting them off. It's got plenty of lift. You could fly it just like that, guys. That being said, the EDF, the plan for the EDF is not just to have it be an EDF, but to have a little bit of a magnet embedded in the track and in the blade bases, so that the magnets sit inside the track, two magnets on one side, one magnet on the other in the inside, and then you pulse the magnets and it spins the EDF. Now, traditionally, That would not be the way that this works. But this is a frictionless setup that allows for no drive shaft connecting the EDF, allows you to spin the EDF a lot faster, and it is not a method currently in use. I have a design for an EDF turbine that I haven't designed yet because I can't think about it without giving it to the world. You guys are such scumbags. You won't even let me have the money to get the equipment I need to block out the transmission from my equipment so that I can develop this stuff in private and then give you the designs like normal rational people would at this level of technology. This is what needs to happen. Problem is, I volunteered for our first Super Soldier program and designed the equipment that's in me. I've been an inventor since I was a little kid, and I've been willing to serve my country enough to die for it. I've proven that over and over and over again, man. While you people refusing to pay me and outright robbing me has left me in a position where I don't have a choice but to share this. Now, I'm not going to share the details of the blade profile, that kind of stuff, and how many blades are going to be in the turbine set and how to manage it and all this stuff. I need to work that out in a goddamn laboratory, and you know it. If you're not an engineer, this is why I'm trying to explain this to my prime minister in this video, because it seems like you really don't understand what's involved here, or even what you're asking me to do when you ask me to design you a fighter plane. For one, CAD programs are thousands of dollars, sir. So are computers. I don't have any of that. So I can't just hand your people a design. What did you expect me to do? Explain it to you? Well, this is the closest I can do with that. Now, you people owe me a lot of money. And I just sent a letter to my prime minister informing him that if in 48 hours, I'm uploading this Monday night, I'm informing him. I've already sent the email to inform him. I've already uploaded the first video. This is the second video to explain the final details of how the gist of this works. Now that you know the gist of it, you can see that my EDF will run with less vibration and smoother. Smoother is a thing. Higher RPM, frictionless. In addition, it's going to ride on a magnetic hub. So it is 100% frictionless. And the hub will turn, in fact, a smaller generator that will send power to the second in the series, and so on and so forth. And the energy, the way that works, it's so easy to do, guys. I understand it. Maybe that's because I'm Aramaic. Maybe I'm the smartest guy in the world, like they say. I don't know. I don't care. All I do know is I volunteered to serve this country with everything I have, and I meant it. But you're making us all look like idiots, just so for the sake of robbing me. See, in this contract, the Prime Minister himself gets the money. He gets the management fee. Legally, he's managing my wealth, which means legally I have to pay him as a money manager. And they legally get a percentage, which means they're making billions of dollars each term. They make about $1 billion over the 4 years, guys. They make about $250 million a year to manage my money. Only they refuse to turn over the money. So as of Monday morning, I'll be going after a lawyer. I've in the past had lawyers volunteer to take this case pro bono, guys. Taking the case isn't a problem. It's an open and shut case, and it's going to be an embarrassment for Canada, and I didn't want this shit. But they've got me bent over the coals, raking me as hard as they can, and I'm still trying my best to serve my country. What I need is for them to pay me so I can run a proper development program and so that I don't die with nothing. I'm owed billions. I should be wealthy. Instead, I'm on welfare, and it doesn't pay enough to feed me. I'm digging through the garbage to eat, and it's the 11th of the month, and I'm about to go out and do that. That's where this is at. So, that's as close as I can get you guys. A foam toy. A hand-launched glider. That's what you get for no money.